Hello everyone, welcome to SwitchUp. My name is Glen and today I've got one of our buy or avoid lists for you. Now I've got 10 games here that have come out over the last few months or so that we just haven't got around to reviewing for one reason or another, so I'm going to run through them one at a time and give you our opinion as to whether you should buy it, avoid it completely, or wait for a sale of some description. Okay, with all that said, let's jump straight in. First up then we have the Panzer Dragoon remake, which came out fairly recently. This, as the name suggests, is a remake of the classic on-rail shooter that was on the Saturn back in 1995. This new version updates the graphics, although you could argue that these newer graphics themselves look quite dated in some respects. If you've never played Panzer Dragoon, as mentioned, it's an on-rail shooter of sorts, whereby you play as a hunter atop a dragon, aiming to take down a host of enemies and boss characters on your way through each stage. The difference this game had over others in the genre is that you could rotate the character's view at 90-degree angles in order to shoot enemies beside or behind you. The gameplay is still as much fun as it always was, although having been outsourced by Sega, things don't have the level of polish that you would hope and expect. Even down to the look of the menus, it all just looks a bit off. It lacks gyro controls, although I did hear they would be patched in at some point. At £22.49 or $24 or €99, it's a bit too expensive for my tastes, especially considering that lack of polish. So I would say wait for a sale, or I've heard the sequel, generally considered a superior game, is also being remade, so perhaps wait for that one instead. Next up is The Complex, which is an interactive movie or FMV game from Wales Interactive, who have also brought other such games in the genre across to the Switch, such as Late Shift and The Bunker. It costs £9.99, $12 or €99. This is a science fiction thriller where you follow the story of Dr. Amy Tennant, a leader in the field of nanocell technology, who finds herself locked in her laboratory along with a colleague after the auto security systems lock down following an incident. Running out of time and air, you must make the decisions in a choose your own story type way in order to find a way out. Now, given the situation we currently all find ourselves in, a game about being in lockdown might not exactly offer the escapism that some people will be craving, but aside from this, the story itself is very compelling and told fantastically well. The acting is of a good standard, the game tracks how your decisions affect the relationships you have with the other characters, and this will directly affect which of the 8 different endings you get. I very much enjoy these type of games, and whilst FMV variations are less interactive than ones such as the Telltale games or something like Until Dawn on the PS4, it's still riveting to see how your decisions will shape things. If you are a fan of such games or have always been curious about them, and the story itself sounds interesting to you, then I would recommend this one as a buy.
Still in development and securely back at the complex, but once they're ready, we can begin regulated human trials. Having treated victims of chemical attacks all over the world, I know that nanocells...
Kimono Heroes is a 2D action platformer with quite beautiful sprite work and allows for up to 4 players locally. Whilst I only had a chance to play this one in single player, it's a very competent platformer with weapon based combat. Each of the 4 characters plays differently, and you can use the coins you find in chests along the way in shops to upgrade your weapons or health, as well as other elements of your character. There are boss battles, and you will even pick up items that introduce new mechanics, such as a hook that allows you to grab and pull yourself up towards platforms. This was actually a very pleasant surprise, and at £13.49 or $14 or €99, I'd recommend this one as a buy as well. Psikyo Shooting Stars Bravo is the second of these compilations to hit the Switch, with its sibling Shooting Stars Alpha also available. As with the previous game, for which we have a review on the channel, I'll put a link to it in the description, there are 6 games included from Psikyo's extensive shoot 'em up library. The 6 games included this time are Samurai Aces 1, 2 and 3, Gun Barrack, Gunbird 1 and Gunbird 2. My thoughts on this release are very similar to the Alpha Collection. The games are all a lot of fun, and whilst I've heard some serious hardcore shoot 'em up fans raise the issue of lag, to anyone who is not playing competitively, it's honestly not noticeable to my layman eyes. The biggest issue I have with these collections is that they do not have online leaderboards, which really flattens my desire to continue to high score chase, especially when so many other shooters on the Switch include this. The lack of any extras, such as concept art, also disappoints me, and whilst the price of £35.99 isn't horrific, considering it's 6 games I suppose, the lack of the aforementioned features makes me less comfortable giving it a wholehearted buy recommendation. If you do love shoot 'em ups, you'll definitely get your money's worth, but I would be waiting for a slight sale myself. I've always had a soft spot for top-down racers, games such as Micro Machines, or the more isometric offerings such as Super Off-Road or Biker Mice from Mars on the Super Nintendo. With this in mind, I was intrigued to try Ultimate Racing 2D. Now I've seen that this has been panned by pretty much everyone else that has reviewed it, and I was ready to concur after my first half an hour or so with the game. The controls are very twitchy, and if you let the AI get ahead, it's pretty much game over already. But with that said, after playing for a little longer, I found that if you use the brake often when cornering, you do start to get a feel for the controls, and there are a host of options ranging from difficulty settings to race types and vehicle types as well. At £8.99 I could only really recommend this on a deep sale, and even then many people will play it once and give up because of the controls. So buy with caution, but I don't think it's as bad as some people have said, it's just definitely not for everyone. Agony is a first-person horror game that costs £17.99 or $19 or €99. It's set in hell, where you are up against the Red Goddess, the self-proclaimed architect of sorrow and pain. Now I'm going to be honest, the only sorrow and pain involved in this game is caused by playing it, as this is most definitely one of the worst games I've played on the Switch. You can barely walk 10 yards without the game stuttering and pausing as it struggles to load the next area. Things are so dark, even with the gamma turned up to the max, that you cannot see the pitfalls ahead, and I actually died twice without even realising, as the game goes to a strange load screen and I thought I was being taken to the next area. It's only when it looked quite familiar that I started to realise I think I've died. To this day I don't even know what killed me, probably boredom. There are many horror games on the Switch, a fair few of them in this first person, walking sim, survival type mould, and all of the others I've played have been better than this. At the end of the day, life is too short to play bad games. This one is an avoid.
Do you really think that you're worthy of my favor? You're not even able to make a sacrifice to me.
Demolition Crew is a homage to the arcade games of old, with you needing to scale a building to reach the top, avoiding hazards along the way before moving on to the next level and doing it again. You must reach the top of each building and ring the bell to signify that it is ready for demolition, and doing this becomes progressively harder due to the more elaborate level designs as you go. You will need to defeat enemies, traverse platforms, avoid spikes and other hazards while trying to collect coins and stars for bonus points. With a 2-player mode available too, this is a good game to pick up and play when you have about 10 minutes spare, as long as you are on board with the basic gameplay, primitive graphics and the repetitive albeit catchy music. At just £2, dollars and euros, it's hard not to recommend this if you enjoy games such as the arcade version of Donkey Kong, and for me this would be a buy. Riverbond is an action game that allows for 1 to 4 player couch co-op. It uses a voxel graphic style, and whilst as a rule this is generally a style that doesn't appeal to me, I must say that in this case it really does look quite lovely. You will complete a set of small and basic missions, generally equating to killing a set number of a certain enemy, finding a certain number of items, or freeing a certain number of hostages, all the while killing everything that moves and destroying everything that doesn't. You will find a number of weapons as you play, such as ranged or melee, but it's the colourful and quirky nature of these weapons that makes it fun. Whilst it is a co-op game, you will be competing for high scores against each other at the same time, and at the end of about 5 small missions you will fight a boss. It's a fairly shallow game, although there are a few worlds to take on, but it's a great family game. It's destructive and involves fighting, but it's done in quite a family friendly way. At £17.99 or $24.99, the price is just too high to recommend a straight buy, but it's close to be fair, and any sort of reduction, and I definitely recommend it. History 2048 is a take on the popular block sliding puzzle game that's been available on Android and iOS for a number of years. The game sees you attempting to match tiles of a similar value by sliding them into each other, subsequently making the two values add together to make a new tile worth that amount. The game is won when a tile with the value of the titular 2048 appears on the grid. This version though substitutes the numbered tiles found in other versions of the game for historical scenes created in a low poly art style, and this really does look quite nice. The grid is also displayed in an isometric view rather than a more traditional top-down one. The problem is that this view makes sliding the tiles accurately quite difficult, and whilst I love the look of the tiles, there is no title screen or any menus really, which always just puts me off games a little bit. It just cheapens things for me, which is a shame. There are other versions of 2048 available on the Switch for cheaper than this one, which goes for £4.49 or $4 or €99. When it goes on sale, it's usually for under £1, so worth it at that price, but otherwise the awkward controls would have me avoiding this one, I'm afraid. Pipe Push Paradise is a puzzle game in which you must use the pipe pieces at your disposal to connect two end pieces and allow for the water to flow successfully onward. I was a big fan of Pipe Mania back in the day. There was also a very good interpretation of it on WiiWare called Heron Steam Machine, but this one is slightly different. Whereas those games had you moving pieces at speed, laying them in an instant with a click of the cursor, in Pipe Push Paradise, the pieces are laid out in the area you are working in and must be pushed into position by your character. This makes for an experience with a much slower pace and also limits your options in where pieces can go, as your character must be able to get behind a piece to push it. Completing a puzzle sees you moving along a map to find the next one, and on the whole it's quite an enjoyable puzzler, although it did make me yearn for the aforementioned games instead. At £9.89 or $10 or €99, it's too expensive for what it is, but one to consider when it's on sale. So there we have it then, 10 games for your consideration. Whilst only a couple of buys out of the 10 games, to be fair, 2 or 3 of the wait for a sale options are definitely good games, they're just a tad expensive. Do any of these games interest you? Is there anyone out there that's going to tell me Agony is a good game? I'd love to hear it. Stick it all in the comments below. A quick thank you to our patrons as always for your continued support, and to each and every one of you for watching our videos. Take care, stay safe, and until next time, happy gaming.